Hello, this is Matt Johnson with the Indiana IEP Resource Center. Today I'm going to walk through a couple things that have adjustments, improvements have been made to the IEP system. The first one's a bigger one that I wanted to focus on. It's in the IEP process and actually show up in the SP process as well. You might notice right away when you go into the IEP process or SP process that one of the names have changed for one of the sections here. It used to be state assessments and other participations at the bottom of that left-hand column. Now it says accommodations, and this is reflecting a shift, if you will, in thinking around this process for us, and it'll become more apparent as we kind of look at it here. When you click on accommodations, the page has changed quite a bit. The main focus, though, here has been the daily accommodations. We want folks to discuss and determine the accommodations those students will need for their daily work and access to curriculum before we determine what's necessary for them to access the state assessment outcomes there. So when you go to a student right now, you'll see something like this. This is a third grader, so you can see how the grade school layout looks. When you go into daily accommodations and click on that button there, and I'm just going to pick a few items here just to spread them out, and you can see how things lay out here. So as you can see, as you check off items that are necessary for that student as far as accommodations go, and then save and continue at the bottom. And once that is saved, you'll see a list here of those items that you've just selected. So from this page, you can delete accommodations from here if you want. So you can check a box and go all the way down to the bottom and save the work, save the page, and then that item will be removed. Or you can go back in to add daily accommodations, and you'll see all the ones you've already checked off as well. So you can uncheck them here and check another option, whatever is necessary for that student. So in any case, you can check off what's appropriate for daily use and for the individual student, click Save and Continue, and you'll see that list appear. Now, one of the things we wanted to do on this page was to consolidate the discussion around accommodations. So you'll notice after you go through your daily accommodations, you'll have a space to describe additional accommodations here. So you can describe what's not on that list, and also further describe items that have been selected, things like extended time. You might want to define what that means for your day-to-day use for that student. So moving on down the page, we come next to the state testing participation. So from here, you get to select what assessment the student will be participating in. So state assessment or alternate assessment. And if you choose alternate assessment, you will have to still meet those same criteria in order to access those options. So I'm just cleaning house a little bit there. And then for the state assessment, you can see this looks very similar to what you're used to seeing in the system currently, or in the past anyway. The difference is it's only going to ask you for the current grade and the next grade level of accommodations. Right now, the system has the past grade level, current, and next. We will require folks to enter in the current and next grade just to make sure that we're ready, because most of the IEPs that we are writing are going to span more than one school year, so we want to make sure we have, as far as reporting goes, the appropriate accommodations for the grade level. So for this case, we can go check with accommodations through these. I'll just show you what that looks like. So I chose with accommodations for all those options. And once we have chosen our participation level, we can choose review assessment accommodations. And what you're going to see here are some items already checked. And these are the items that are aligned to our daily accommodations. So any item that has a matching or corresponding assessment accommodation that we've chosen for daily use will show up here. So once more, if we chose something for daily use and it has a matching item for the accommodation for assessments, then we'll see that check mark appear here for us. Now, you're also going to notice some additional items for each piece, and these are relevant just to online assessments. So the items that are already checked here are ones that have carried or are aligned to our daily accommodations. The ones that are open for us can be selected here, and they pertain to test settings. They're not necessarily daily accommodations, but they are settings that are available on the state assessments, and you can go through each section and make sure that's appropriate. You also have the ability here to remove check marks for accommodations for testing as well. So if you feel that the student needs something day to day what they might not need on a state assessment, you can remove that for those situations if that occurs for you. But really all you need to do on this page is confirm the accommodations are selected and set up the way you'd like, and scrolling down the page all the way, hit save and continue. And as you scroll down the page, you'll see review assessment accommodations. You'll have listed all the state aligned assessment accommodations there. So these are approved to be used on the state assessment. So your IEP, well, first of all, you're set up in the workspace will allow you to do your daily accommodations and then show you those aligned assessment accommodations. This will also appear on the IEP or SP. So that's something we haven't done in the past, and we let the state testing accommodations stand as the daily accommodation. This shows you the difference between the two things. So just finish up on this page. It asks you for your rationale, as it always has, rationale for your choices, and then plans for any other state or international, local, and any kind of other testing. You can express that here. And since this student being a third grader, then you have your I read 3 prompts as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change students real quick and show a high school student and a transition age, just so you can see. Actually, I might, yeah, that'll work just fine. We'll choose a transition age student, go into the IEP process and look at accommodations. So we're going to do the same process, adding accommodations as we need for the students. I'm just kind of randomly choosing a few things here and there, just so you can see them. So here's all the daily accommodations, our additional accommodations, the state assessments chosen for us, and then we have our state testing choices as we look at them here. So the difference for high school, we have a little differentiation for our choices here. Just let me walk you through these a little bit. They're a little bit different based on some of these pieces. So for math, we have options for participated, passed, and then participating with or without accommodations. We have the same options for English language arts. For US government, we have with and without accommodations, and then there's a participation in the state assessment piece. And the reason we have this, the participated in state assessment, is for accountability. The student may have to participate, but they may not have to pass it in order to get their graduation requirement met. So for example, up here when we have for math, student has participated, might be chosen. That meaning they have participated in the math assessment. They may not have passed it, or maybe your results aren't in yet, and that may be one way to go with that. But they may not have passed that math assessment, and so they're maybe pursuing a different pathway to get their diploma. So there's a chance to document it that way, and then later on the IEP you can document what pathway the student's pursuing. So this will work though much like what we've seen already, with accommodations, maybe without here for language, with, and then I'm just kind of mixing it up so you can see how that might look differently. And then limited English proficiency, your WIDA exams will appear here, and that is turned on and off based on a previous choice on the special considerations and behavior concerns page, which it's been that way for a while. But if you go back to the special considerations, behavior concerns at the top of the page, it says student has needs related to limited English proficiency. Then if that's yes here, then those prompts show up. Those prompts show up under the accommodation section for that piece. So that just to make sure that's clear, and I didn't save it, so it's not keeping that for me. Okay, so but the same process from here applies as what you've already seen. You choose your participation level, review assessment accommodations, and then it will show you which accommodations are aligned to your state assessment, and you can add in your testing test settings if they apply, and those are all listed there for you. Click save and continue if you're satisfied with that, and then it'll take us back to this page. So at the top of the page again, we'll see our daily accommodations listed, our additional accommodations, and then at the bottom, our approved assessment accommodations. So that's the big deal with this whole process, is now there are two separate lists of accommodations, so it's clear what's available day to day and what's available on a state assessment if they happen to be different there. So one last thing I wanted to show you here for this section is that in the IEP process for when you're creating an IEP here, I just wanted to show you a draft version so you get an idea of what the final product looks like, because it is a little bit different than what you've seen before. So when I look at a final IEP, you'll see pretty much the layout you've experienced in the past: eligibility information, special considerations, behavior concerns there. There's our, as we're moving through that, and we have our outcomes for transition. And then you see a section that's labeled accommodations. You'll see a little statement describing or talking through accommodations a bit. Then we have a list of our daily accommodations and additional. Then we document our participation in the assessments. And then there's our testing accommodations, reasons, and plan for participation. So everything that we've just discussed makes it into the final IEP, so it's right there and part of the record. So that makes a little clearer discussion around what accommodations students receive daily and what's in place for them at a testing setting. The only other thing that is big for us as far as an adjustment might be this. I've had this response from the field as well. When we start looking at our document sections, let's see if it comes up for me here. There we go. It has when we first go to this page, some of you might notice if you haven't created any documents for this current school year, there may not be any documents listed yet, as PCG has changed this a little bit so that it only shows by default the current school year. And if you want to, you can go back to each individual school year and see documents there. Or what I recommend you doing, if you're looking for something then you're not sure what year it is located under, you click on View All, and then you'll see all the students' documents appear. So I've gotten a lot of calls from folks that are seeking documents they think are no longer listed. If you use that View All, you'll be able to see everything. You can see they all come back in just fine. So big change in our system is the accommodations piece. Once more, just relabeled our one section of our IEP and service plan system so you can see accommodations. The focus, again, start with the student, what the student needs day to day, and from there we align or choose or crosswalk that choice into what the student will receive for the state assessment. So that's the upshot of the whole process. So that's the big change improvement into the IEP system that is just rolling out recently in the last couple of days. So I just wanted to give everyone an overview of the change and what they can expect to see when they start getting into their IEPs. So thanks for your time. And if you have any questions, always reach out to us at the IEP Resource Center, and we'd be happy to help you out. Thanks again. Have a great beginning of your school year.